All right. So what's a belief that makes you unpopular with other Christians?
A belief that makes me unpopular with other Christians. I think I've always found myself in between two worlds where I'm too worldly for some Christians and too Christian for the world.
Yeah,
right?
I know what you mean.
And I think what that practically means is I think there are aspects that Christians over spiritualize, and we need to have some wisdom on certain things. And then I think there are aspects that the world just completely falls short on and face plants on. I'll give you an example of a passage of scripture, very controversial passage of scripture, but I think it's relevant. So this is Jesus in Luke chapter 16. This is one of the weirdest passages. And Jesus is talking about a shrewd manager who does some sketchy stuff, but he acknowledges his shrewdness, right? Luke 16 is a weird passage, but he says, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be my manager any longer. Now, again, management, stewardship, right? So it's the same word. The manager said to himself, what shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg, but I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses. So he called in each of his master's debtors. He asked the first, how much do you owe my master? 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, quickly take your bill, sit down, and make it 450. So he's slashing what people owe his manager, or his owner, his master. Then he asked the second, and how much do you owe? 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he acted shrewdly. What? This makes no sense, right? And then, but I think here's the moral of the story. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use your worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal blessing. So this is something, this idea, for the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than the people of the light. I tell you, use your worldly wealth. I am unapologetic about telling Christians, use your worldly wealth, use your worldly influence, use your worldly resources to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. And then this is the macro, which we were just talking about earlier. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you the property of your own? No one. And then this is the big idea. People always like to use this verse, right? Like, oh man, you want to be ambitious, you want to go build a business, you want to go start something. No one can serve two masters. They miss the 12 verses before this.
Facts.
Right? Which is talking about using your worldly wealth to serve people and store up treasure in heaven, right? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Okay. And then it goes into the Pharisees, being upset about this. But the moral of the story is we have to learn how to manage the things we've been given. And so I'm unapologetic about, hey, every single person has time, talent, treasure, and we are to manage those things onto the glory of God. And when we don't, we do God a disservice. We do ourselves a disservice. We do people a disservice by burying our talents. And that requires shrewdness. That requires wisdom. That requires being not just someone that's so in the clouds and so chasing these things that are just spiritual, but understanding, again, that your physical body is what's going to teach and disciple your soul. And that is all interconnected and integrated. So it's like, I don't compartmentalize physical fitness. I don't compartmentalize financial stewardship. I don't compartmentalize marriage and family. I don't compartmentalize these things. They're all integrated, right?
Yeah.
The root of the word integrity is integer, which is one. You're one holistic person. So I think that drives a lot of Christians mad. I think people don't like that. And then when you get into the fact that I am going to be unapologetic about empowering people to do these things, and I'm also going to be unapologetic about not just equipping others, but also saying, hey man, we have ways that you can support us, whether on Patreon and having certain stuff paywalled before it goes public, whether merchandise, right? There's a lot of people who have an issue with those things. But it's like, hey, I'm supposed to be shrewd. Why? Because the world is doing way better leveraging God's principles than the church.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but they're God's. These principles are from Jesus himself. These principles are from the Proverbs. Stewardship, management, living on less than what you make, learning how to save, learning how to leverage these things, right? These are biblical principles. And I think we've unfortunately given them away to the world. And then we become frustrated. And it's like, well, you're not applying God's wisdom to these things. Now, what I'm not saying is like a one-to-one, if you do these things, you will be rich. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that there are principles, not promises in Proverbs, in the Gospels, in the New Testament, that when you apply them, they're huge, they're transformative. They can move the needle, especially in a society like ours, where we still have freedom of speech. We have, freedom to own the capital, the means of production. We have freedom to own property. We have a lot of freedom here we take for granted. And in our context, I think you apply God's ways, considering you're of able body, you have sound mind, there hasn't been a tragedy that's happened to you lately, you apply these things. And generally speaking, the needle moves in a flourishing direction, generally speaking. I know there's always the exceptions to the rule. I know cancer is always a possibility, but generally speaking. And I think when you say that to people, they'll say, how dare you, you're tone deaf. Like when I share the story of me and my wife being in debt, technically $100,000 and becoming debt free in 18 months, before I was popping with music or YouTube, before we were making any real serious money. When I say that story, people get offended, go, you're tone deaf. How dare you? Money is hard, this economy. And it's like, yeah, bro. And we did this coming out of the '08 recession when things were really hard and everything had collapsed. That stuff's offensive to people. And so I would say that's what often rubs people the wrong way, which, by the way, if that means I am standing next to the views of a Dave Ramsey, I'll take that on the chin anytime. People will say, oh, Dave Ramsey's a boomer. It's like, yeah, and he's also right about a lot of stuff. So I'm going to stand, if that's what that means, then by all means, I'll stand next to Dave Ramsey with some of these things for sure.
Okay, so basically, like, what people tend to push back to your belief is that, is it mainly like the money and ambition side of things?
Yes, I would say money is a downstream effect of godly ambition. So it's not money. It's if you have godly ambition, the downstream effect of that is going to be fitness, family, freedom, finances. Like it's all integrated.
Yeah,
right?
For sure, you gain respect right away if you apply God's wisdom, right? Maybe not money, but you'll get for sure respect because you'll be a good character. You'll be taking care of your body. So you're gonna be in shape, and then you'll be working hard because like you'll maximize the time, treasure, and money. So most likely you'll for sure get respect and like someone to look up to. And then money. Most people that have money have all those skill sets already, intact.
You become the type of person
that can actually
And so think about it, like if you're working a Joe job, so like let's just say like you got your first job, you're working at McDonald's. Right? But you start saying, hey, I'm going to be early. I'm going to be the first to come, the last to leave.
Yeah.
I'm going to go above and beyond. I'm going to work my face up. Matter of fact, and I'm just going to work harder than everybody. I'm also going to work smarter. And I'm also going to take knowledge and information that I have that I'm learning and going to the person that's running the marketing department at my local McDonald's and saying, hey, what if we did this thing? What if we tried this? Right? You think that type of person who's working a low-level job isn't going to prosper at a McDonald's?
Facts.
Again, generally speaking, I'm not saying the exception to the rule where you got a terrible but generally speaking, you're going to do better.
Yeah. I mean, as a business owner yourself, you can testify that if someone's trying to maximize and help you out with more stuff, it's much better than someone that just does the
bare minimum. Yes.
And if someone's trying to, help out with more things, like it's just better overall business, right? Because it's like solving more problems and serving, even though like, people will give you ideas or whatever, like those are all useful and helpful.
Right.
So I agree with that.